going through and not banning on the first round because you get to see the ban on Cloud9 and use that as your loss of ban for P1.
So, C9 going to get the first actual ban, I suppose, of the game. And it's Vladimir taken out straight away. Nobody wants to play against that guy.
Yep. Not enough Executioner's Callings. I mean, come on. But he is incredibly powerful. Even if you do have that, he's still healing for multiple hundreds every time he gets the Q rotation up.
Yep. Pretty quick bans here as well. Rise banned by C9, so another mage added to that pool. P1 use Ashe and Swain for their precious 2 bans here in this opener. And again, sort of the expected champions, I suppose, banned away so far. Maybe Ashe being a bit different there, but certainly a champion Sneaky knows well.
Exactly, and that's the thing is the initiation power of Ashe is something that we have seen prioritized incredibly heavily from a lot of teams overseas as well, and even on 6.10, just because we're seeing a lot of top lane carries, right? We're seeing Vladimir, we're seeing Swain, we're seeing these guys that aren't about that CC. If you bring the engage and CC from your AD carry role, and that's why Karma is also popular, you have a lot of engage and disengage from your bot lane, so you can bring damage elsewhere.
Yep, and that's last ban Kindred, which does leave Nidalee actually open to P1 Sentinel. Pretty happy to have that one in the jungle, but Meteos, he can play these champions, but definitely known for some other ones here. I'm sure he's happy to give that one away.
Oh yeah, I think he's happy to play the Rek'Sai right now, which is equal in tier with Nidalee after the nerfs, and people were pretty much picking up Rek'Sai again anyway, saying that, oh, this champion is still really good and has a lot of potential, a lot of map influence, and getting back into the swing of things with the Titanic Hydra build as well.
Classic Meteos. Always just has to have something special, doesn't he? As we'll see what C9 have in store for these first 2 picks. There is the Rek'Sai you mentioned, and there's Sivir actually for Sneaky.
And that's the other utility. I was talking about engage from Ashe. With Ashe off the table, the other engage AD carry is Sivir, and then that's basically it. Jhin is also seeing some popularity for the same reason that you can use the ultimate to kind of get that engage in the root. So if your AD carry has a CC, you bring damage elsewhere, and I'm looking forward to what C9 round this composition out with as it moves forward, because you could definitely pick up a Victor here. You could get a lot of great things.
Yeah, utility carries definitely seem to be the name of the game in the bottom side of the map. So we'll see what C9 put together, because Sivir, not nearly the same champion she was before as far as we can just pick anything and it'll be good. You have to really think about your compositions here, as Karma going to get snatched away almost there from the C9 side, going in onto P1 and Gate. And Pyrion just going to take Victor. Might as well take a nice, safe laner. Do not want to give too much away to Jensen.
Exactly. I think that's what Jensen would end up picking up anyway, and Victor is a completely fine blind pick at the moment. Karma is a takeaway because you don't want to have that double speed bot lane that gives your entire team engage potential, so they can run whatever they want and run it straight into your team if it's some type of bruiser, like an Alawi, right? An Alawi succeeds incredibly well if you have a Sivir and Karma both. Even if you have one, it's still a really good pick. So I'm interested because it's a lot of takeaways from C9's side and what they would have potentially wanted here, and I expect P1 to get themselves a Caitlyn later on.
Well, Caitlyn's certainly open. It's been a pretty common pick into these short to medium range AD carries, but C9 do need to rustle up some picks here. 10 seconds left for picks 3 and 4. Jensen hovering Azir. See if he takes it away. Feels funny that we've always just gone back to Azir Victor, but for now we'll actually mix it up a touch. Bard and Trundle are actually the picks there for C9.
Really interesting here. Maokai was still on the table for Impact. Trundle's a champion that didn't take any nerfs from those top lane S tiers. And with back the QSS buff, so it kind of makes it so that picking a top lane tank right now for P1, kind of not recommended at the moment.
It's also a big champion for Ziggy. He's played a number of Trundle games already. So C9 kind of getting a bit of double duty on that particular pick. Slushie going to flash us a Draven.
Oh,
I do like his style.
Do it.
It's good into Sivir. Like, the pick makes sense.
Great into Sivir. She can't spell shield your axes. There's nothing she can do about that. You're mostly auto attack based, and I expect him to go with something like one of those two.
You said it was an aggressive AD carry player, right?
I want the Draven.
He's a pretty aggressive mid laner.
I want to see that at Draven.
So I think this would all suit. Slushie's still taking his time though. Twitch is currently the hover. P1 also needs to make another pick here. And there's Maokai, and there's Lucian actually into that Sivir.
Oh man, I wanted the excitement. But I mean, I guess he builds Yomu's Ghostblade anyway. He's incredibly aggressive in lane, and he'll be able to push it on the Sivir. So Maokai comes in for the engage because they have a poke composition in a way with the Nidalee and also the Victor for wave clear. So P1, well-rounded, have a lot of options here. Good team fight, but the split push is not in their favor.
No, not this time around. See what C9 complete this composition with though. As P1 have drafted, I'll say very safe here for game 1, which makes sense given the circumstances surrounding it. Looks like Jensen's pick is the one they need though. We'll see what they select for him now that they have the entire composition of P1 revealed. They already knew the mid lane matchup, but Jensen, definitely a player that loves getting every single edge.
Could be Azir, which I would think it would be.
It's the hover from earlier, so
Yep.
I think I'll just, consider other options. Make the pick they were probably expected to make, but still a strong pick nonetheless. So our Game 1 draft does not show too many surprises here. Curious to see how these teams execute on some pretty common and strong team comp.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of things kind of take people by surprise, right? We're seeing, people are playing Aurelia. No Aurelia ban or pick in this game. We're seeing people ending up playing things like the Alawi. Well, not in this game. So this is a rather vanilla draft, and it looks like 6.10.
Yes, it does, which is interesting, because I felt like in the C9 series earlier, they were still maybe playing a little bit behind their meta, or maybe that's just where they're comfortable. It's tough to say. I think P1, again, also doing the safe thing makes sense here. But if that's the case, we already talked about it.
Yep.
All about execution. P1, they're good.
They are.
Not sure they're C9 good, and I'd be curious to see how this Game 1 shakes out.
Exactly. And it's going to be Cloud9. Both teams kind of struggle with the cohesion right now. Cloud9 and P1 kind of on the same page there. But Cloud9 do have a little bit of an upper edge because they had been together in boot camp way before P1 had even been together.
Yep, good. Pretty good advantage. It was a good just argue and shake hands. Before we start off this series, though, make sure to predict the winner on Twitter using the hashtag P1win or the hashtag C9win. And what I will say, the things I love about this draft in particular, we said it's kind of vanilla, kind of tame, but it's only Game 1 of the best of 3. How this changes throughout the series will be very interesting because, as is very common in Game 1 scenarios, let's just make it real simple to start things off.
Yep. Don't have to show anything. If you have some trump cards, now if you win Game 1 with this, you don't have to bring it out for Game 2. If you lose, then you're on the back foot. So playing standard first game, definitely understandable here. It's a battle of the numbers, though.
We'll see how it works.
Is this golf and 1 is the good number? Or is 9 just the bigger number and it's every other sport?
I guess we'll find out. Today we will learn something. As P1 and C9 do move out for this opening game here. Looks like just a pretty standard fan so far. Level 1 always pretty interesting. We've seen kind of a different mix of things today. Some standard lanes, some lane swaps, but things have sort of normalized at level 1 pretty often.
Yeah, this is just the fan out. Blind lane swap is usually when people are picking things like Zyra, which we didn't see picked or banned in this set. And people don't want to play against it. If anybody was going to lane swap in this, I would think it's Cloud9 for multiple reasons. One, you have more team cohesion with the time. I believe you would be able to handle lane swaps better. You're up against a substitute AD carry, so he may not know entirely how to bounce the wave correctly, which is actually an acquired skill. You have to do it a lot of times, go into custom games and just try it, because you might actually push it too early, and then your turret has to wait like 1 or 2 more waves, and that's a big problem in timing.
Well, it looks like actually lane swap might be initiated here by
All right.
P1. Going to move themselves up to that top half of the map. We'll have to see how this sort of shakes out, but
I'm a liar. My crystal ball is off. It looks like P1's going to go and try to be aggressive, invading the jungle.
yeah, late invade, spotted by a ward though. And they'll just walk up. So now CNN have full knowledge
They
of
checked the
lanes.
wrong one.
Nope, no red buff.
Nope.
It looks
Yep.
like Gate's just going to go ahead and check the Krugs, but we will start with the lane swap here.
Yep. That's going to be C9, though, sneaking in camp. Ward spotting out the route and able to pick up 1 on the strong side of the map. So good for them. Whereas on the bot side, Sentinel ends up getting level 2 off it, so he ended up getting his own camp.
Yep, did take the Krugs there, but Bunny Fufu, good damage. They do go for that invade.
Oh,
Gank here from
Gate from
Gate.
behind.
I mean, not really a gank. Actually, Exhaust might turn it into one. Jensen going to have to flash out.
He can't reach him. Oh, Gate popped the mantra and had the Q, but the minions just got in front of Jensen, and he was like, I gotta get the angle, and they just kept following.
Well, free flash, so not
Oh.
too bad. Here's Bunny
Hey,
with the
next
same
support.
play. No. Diffused. Tyrion walks out of the way. But I like the attempt from both supports. We are going to see the Keystone Masteries. Nothing too surprising there.
I do really like the supports being very active early on, roaming towards that mid lane. And there's something that got kind of lost in the mix in Season 5, especially in the spring split a year ago, where everybody's lane swapping. North America was lane swapping more than any other of the major 5 regions. And it's like, okay, well, why is nobody just going mid and upsetting that? Your support is kind of trivial damage at some points, and you're still pushing the wave. He has a good minute and a half to go roam and do something. And people start picking it up again after we saw MSI this year and near the end of the spring split this time.
Yep, people just start to play their options, depending on sort of how the metagame is shifting around. Though, still getting the extended 3v0 pushes. Sentinel actually flying through the jungle, taking his strong side red camp, but that's away from Meteos' side of the jungle. Nothing too surprising though, but Italy definitely loves to power farm it up. Meteor's actually ahead currently in CS, but both these junglers will be more than happy that they don't have to do anything but farm for the first 5 minutes or so of the game.
Sometimes you're happy. Sometimes you're just like, I want to gank. If you're Dardoch, you're just like, lane swaps, come on. But yeah, being able to get your jungle and have a pretty good freeze here. Impact will have it pretty much at the point where you want it. Standard freeze, whereas top side,
yeah,
not quite.
Zig left a few
Not
caster
quite.
creeps in that wave, unfortunately. So
Yeah.
struggle a bit, but looks like Sneaky and Bunny Fufu are going to move up there and deal with that. Zig will pick up what CS he can for now. Impact doing the same, but we are going to have again the most standard variation played today.
Yep. Ward spotting out the 80 carries and supports walking to the lane. So top laners know when to back off. I'm actually quite curious because we see that ward all the time where it's right there. You're waiting for the 80 carry support to walk by it. You should path through the jungle at some point. 80 carry support should path through the jungle. See what happens.
Pressure from Jensen. All they know, Jensen doesn't have a flash. He actually burnt TP as well.
Yeah.
Get a second Doran's. Also has blue buff by the looks of things. So nice early donation from Meteos.
Yep, Rek'Sai able to hand that off. Great for a lot of mid laners. You can be a little bit mono-starved if you continue to chunk out with the Azir. You can get that cooldown reduction as well. So Meteos now just going back to, oh, I have to go clear out this side of the jungle or else I fall behind in experience. Lane swap.
And Meteos does know one thing. It's out of power farm the jungle. Going to take his wolf camp away from the P1 side. And we'll see what C9 can get done as far as pushes go. Looks like both trios are starting their push at pretty much a similar time, so I can't imagine these speeds will be vastly different.
Yep. If P1 get this in at a good pace, they could pick up Infernal Drake, which everybody seems to love.
And that's the nice thing. We talked about lane swaps and how the objectives sort of fall by the wayside because the towers are more important, but the new Drake's definitely an objective that people want. Zentalon's actually already, no, he was already starting it, but I think he's backed off. He's actually wrapping around, maybe looks for the push through, going to take the Grump instead. And I imagine P1 will back off for this Dragon, so all things considered, splitting the map may just be advantageous for Phoenix here.
Yeah, I think that the question is, will C9, if it's a Dragon or if it's Drake going over to P1, will they get Rift Herald for impact and get him that gigantic full push advantage? Because then he wins that lane just flat out, not because of the matchup, which is already in his favor. Well, he also gets the Rift Herald buff. And no, P1 just gonna back off. No Infernal Drake. I'm very surprised by that because if you look at the top side of the map, turret is not dead yet.
Yep.
They're still working on it.
In fact, Impact is kind of proxying a wave almost. C9 going to piece, going to make sure they give Impact the biggest lead possible. Impact again, going to try and bounce this wave back as far as he possibly can.
The only reason you would do this as P1 is if you could save the turret, shove Impact off of it, and then he ends up with his team not having that entire turret gold. So I feel like this is a missed opportunity to get that Infernal Drake, which is just highly desired.
Yep, right now the big major objective is actually staying up on the map. And we'll swap back by the looks of things, and I think get ourselves into some pretty long standard lanes. Kyrian, though, aggressed on by Jensen on the Azir, is actually pretty even in CS, but forcing him out there is nice. Victor, though, going to go back. Those double Dorans already. In fact, Kyrian's going to stay for an extra wave, which is a bit greedy. Meteos here maybe potentially able to line up again, because Smite battle. Sentinel and Meteos going to face off. Sentinel just fighting him right now. Meteos smites it away. Sentinel going to lose that initial jungle challenge.
Gets the farm, walks away by Sightstone super early on. Doesn't even go for jungle upgrade or anything like that. He's just going for vision control. Standard in lane swaps for Rek'Sai because you only get the Stalker's Blade if you know you're going to get those ganks off early. So just trying to control jungle.
Doing a good job of it so far. Certainly a champion that's pretty handy to have in a lane swap. As Bunny Fufu actually, again, continuing our trend from the last series we saw with a bunch of lane swaps. Everyone's very active on the map right now, so Bunny Fufu actually playing the roaming support, I guess. Pretty appropriate here for this game, and that's a nice care package for Jensen in his lane.
Giving out a heal. Also, Bard as a roaming support is fantastic. You get some experience off the chimes. Actually designed to leave lane as much as possible. Remember in the development, it was all about how do we get him to leave lane, but not have him be so lane dominant. But it's like, but if he's not lane dominant, then he never gets to leave lane, because then his 80 carries just always pushed in.
Well, we solved it. Lane swap every game.
Eventually worked it out. Here comes Gate, though, looking towards mid lane. He has exhaust backup. Jensen has all sums. Kyrian's super low.
Yeah, Jensen wants to play aggressive here, but even if Gate comes, I don't know if he can actually make a difference. Meteos also just to the right, so in the area, as Slushy pushing up in the top side, going to give Impact a nice juicy wave, and here's Bunny Fufu once again, making sure he leaves Caretaker shrines everywhere he goes. Just making sure everyone's okay. Looks like Impact's just fine for now as P1 collapse a few tunnels and kind of take control of this top side of the map. Set red buff will be their objective, but Meteos has one to take on the south side as well. So you're going to push him out for now.
And now Zig, big difference here is Cloud9 Impact top lane has this gigantic wave. This wave is also pushing towards Cloud9, so both Sneaky and Impact are going to be picking up farm, whereas Zig and Slushy, they have to find something to do during this time and make it so that during this time, you have to do something that needs to be answered by Cloud9, so minute and 30 after that. So if it's bouncing the waves back or having action in the mid lane, you do have to go after something.
You know what they could do, Zarin? Take a Infernal Drink.
They could take, yeah, exactly. You could do a drink.
Not this time around, at least, as Meteos and Bunny Fufu going to move their way in. Another good smite from Meteos. That's his second Raptor camp in a row. He has stolen out from under Sentinel. In general, though, this formation looks just fine for both teams. Long side lanes to play with, wave clear mid laners. It's no real surprise we started this one off with a lane swap.
Yeah, and you can see Cloud9 are just executing it a little bit better, and now you're seeing these advantages manifested. Bunny Fufu 2 levels up over Gate. Impact was 2 levels up over Zig. Now he's 1.5 levels up over Zig. It's a big problem, and Meteos was farming the jungle harder than Sentinel, actually taking some of his. Meteos is half a level up, so C9 have these power spikes and experience.
Okay, Sloopy going in, but Meteos going to turn it around. The binding almost good. Gate was close to, I think, sending his team to certain death, but Sentinel's here as well. C9 going to back out from their jungle.
Now if that spirit hit Bunny Fufu, would have seen a hard commit there from Sentinel. But no, Jensen's going to roam down from the top side and just pushing in the top. So yeah, a lot of pressure here from P1.
Look at how much damage Zig's taken. That's just some trades 1v1 there. Impact the level up with the Tiamat. Able to pressure nicely. Also 20 CS ahead at this point.
There is a big wave there, and this is where if there was somebody to dive that top laner, it's just he's out of the game at that point. But hopefully Zig picks up this CS for himself, or else he falls even further behind it. Impact is threatening, but it's a Trundle. You can't really threaten that hard.
Yeah, just a bluff. Well, at least try and get Zig off a couple, which I think he does successfully. Flushy looking. I think does tag someone with the W, but other than that, Jensen back with blue buff. That cannot be the same one.
No. I was like, whoa. That's the 7-minute spawn one. Or typically 7 minutes, but because he took it a little bit later.
Well, still happy as they're farming up a Storm 10 CS up of Pyrian as we're almost 11 minutes into this game, and it's been a rather quiet game, but we mentioned earlier, C9 are just getting a little bit ahead in different spots, and they're almost 1,000 gold up as a result. So it sounds kind of silly, but these things clearly add up to a tangible gold total. And while we are going to have a relatively quiet push through towards that 15-20 minute mark, C9 should, in theory, be ahead once that moment hits, at least by a little bit.
Yeah, it's actually going to get a little bit bigger too, because the P1 lane, top lane is going to slowly push out once again towards Impact. So Impact will end up having this gigantic bank of minions that are going to be eventually pay off for him a minute and a half later. And then this bot wave is still being frozen by Sneaky. Freeze hasn't been broken, and there we go. Finally, pushing back towards him. Cannon, that's the good old cannon minion. So the great thing about freezing minion waves is eventually it'll have to go back, and it's usually because of the cannon minion. Because the lane is so long that your cannon minion, if you are pushed onto like your tier 2, your cannon minion will show up way sooner than theirs, and theirs is like 30 seconds away. So eventually it breaks it, and you'll see, I believe the Sivir is now meeting that other cannon minion wave.
Yep, and
there it is.
And now it's actually reversing. So a big wave stacked up here. Sneaky actually just going to keep this pretty slowly pushing down, but he's really not been threatened at all. Like, deep freezes tend not to happen in lane swaps anymore because teams got good at punishing it. So Jensen going to get ulted here. Pyrian there with a good ulti, but Jensen's going to try and turn it around. Meteos going to move in as well, but Pyrian flashes out. Flashbulb for Meteos will give him first blood. And the TP's cancelled. Impact not needed.
Yeah, a little interesting there. I thought the Emperor's Divide was going to push him even further, but no, he kind of slips by the side. And then that's Meteos having to burn the flash to keep up with Pyrian because he had to use his own.
Well, good play rather from C9. They're actually going to get damage onto this turret as well. P1 just a little slow to all these rotations around the big lane swap, and this tower going down would actually be a big loss.
Yeah.
Impact's going to join in. They will take it. P1 finally punished. A little thing turns into a very big thing.
Exactly. In P1, they seem reactionary right now, and they're still not reacting fast enough. If you're being aggressive and you're taking things like the Infernal Drake off the lane swap, and you realize that the enemy team is 20 seconds behind you and killing that turret, you take that Infernal Drake 100% of the time, because what are you going to do instead? This is a mid push where Jensen just had priority. Jensen pushes in, and they are able to capitalize on it. And we were talking about Jensen at the start as a big damage dealer. Well, he's starting to turn online already. And you can see here, Pyrian thinks he's going to get the better of this because he actually goes on to Jensen, goes out the ultimate. It's knocked up instead of slid into the wall because it probably would have pinched him right against that wall. And then the follow-up with the TP used by Impact.
Just to make sure.
Yeah, just to make sure. It's better safe than sorry.
Doesn't really cost him too much. He's actually having a real fun time right now. Zig's caught up in CS. Cena did get that Infernal Drake we saw as well. So see if maybe P1 get an objective of their own. They're going to start a proactive play here onto that Rift Herald. This will be a great buff for Impact. So taking it away from the Trundle, advantageous certainly for P1.
Yeah, they're going to need all the advantages they can get now because losing your mid lane turret tier 1 is big. Now all the outers are down for P1 and they've just opened up the map. Every time I talk to a professional player about that mid lane turret, they hold it so this is just like a prized possession. They're like, I cannot lose this turret because it's so central to the map that they lose control of their blue and red buff, and whatever the enemy wants to go invade, it's your safe spot. It's really your base, and if you lose that, you have no home base to tag and be like, I'm safe.
Yeah, especially these two champions, both Azir and Victor, sort of pride themselves on keeping that turret alive for a long time.
And that's the thing is, when you look at turrets like the top or the bottom tier 1, when it goes down, okay, there are a couple more routes into that lane for a gank and they can't overextend. In mid, there's twice as many as if you had opened it up on one of the side lanes. So junglers love it because there's so many ways in after that point.
And again, C9 just in full control at this stage. 15 minutes in, Jensen are taking his own blue buff.
Every blue buff to Jensen so far.
That's true, actually. Yeah. Meteos on the rec side, able to be anywhere. And with the map this open, it sort of favors the overall squad for C9. Impact getting stronger, can just stay in that top side and continually split push. He still has a massive CS lead on Zig, although Zig again is catching up as the wave crashes towards him.
Yeah, when I look at the actual gold values, Zig is 1,000 down on Impact at the moment. He has gold coming in, but that's where this a large part of this advantage is coming from. The jungle, you can see the CS as well. Just every lane right now, every single role except for support.
And another great rotation from C9. Now going to pressure this tier 2 turret. Zig had a big wave built towards it. It's not really safe to try and defend. P1, are they here in time?
No, because Slushy's just going to farm the bottom wave. Pyrian's going to farm the mid wave. C9 has 5 members, get to do whatever they want now.
Yeah, wave not stacked up enough though. They're going to keep bouncing through, see if they can't catch someone taking a shortcut through the jungle.
Yep. And Azir put down his turret in the mid lane so that this is a place that you can't pass by, and this is his own mid-tier 1, which allows him to have complete jungle control here. And Cloud9 are just playing this really safe, and it's just really kind of by the book.
Oh, Zig, no! Here we go again, the pillar in. Bunny Pooper going to land up the stump, but he leads a little too much. Meteos, though, able to crush it down, and that twisted advance was not advised.
You are just not answering any of this if you're P1. They're going back and forth, and they're kind of getting run around the map here. Pyrian didn't need help mid. Zig went a little bit too far forward top, but they would have dove him anyway.
Slushy is pushing on the bottom side, so we'll see if maybe they can get something back here. Teleport there for Impact if he really wants to answer it right away.
I think he might.
Not yet. Slushy actually not even committing for the turret, so damage will be done, but it won't go down.
Yeah, because he's not on that turret for the fear of that happening. He knows there's Rek'Sai tunnels behind him, and you can teleport to those Rek'Sai tunnels, so you blatantly see those on your map because they were discovered earlier. And you don't want that impact to come from behind. 2 levels up on Zig, one now after he just leveled up.
And again, it's just that safe play here from P1. Reactive was the word used earlier. That's a great word for what's happening. And C9, yes, they're playing quite deliberate, but they're picking up the pace. They're making the proactive plays. They're seeing the openings. And again, we talked about standard drafting. The play is also echoing that here early on. And it's not even individual skill that C9 need right now. It's just strong map play and really solid teamwork. That's got them almost 4,000 gold ahead in a lane swap. That's a lot at 17.5 minutes.
Yeah, and this is what we're seeing with teams even like Immortals, where we look at their down and kills every single game against Energy, and they're just like, oh yeah, by the way, we're up because we have better macro movements. So if you looked at the scoreboard, you would think, oh, they're getting crushed, but no. So this is what you have to do as a top team, is you have to just play the map, and then the game will be in your favor.
Jensen went for the play, but Gate, the only one to get knocked up by Tempered Fate. Follow-up stun is good, and Jensen's going to take him out. The ulti out from Victor, as Zig caught to the left-hand side, might be the next kill target for C9. P1 still around, Victor ulti kind of zoning them away. C9 again, just with a clean pickoff.
Yep, clean pickoff there, had all the avenues in, and they actually flanked from multiple sides there. Didn't even have to really use the Sivir ultimate either to start that fight off.
Still got it. I think Jensen was the initial target from P1, burnt his sums and ulti, but got out of the way in relatively short order. Ocean Drake up in 55 seconds as P1 starting to get chased out of their own jungle now. We talked about this a bit when we first saw P1 play, where before Slushy came in for their second game, where it just felt like they didn't have anyone who was willing to make a proactive play.
Yeah.
From mid lane on Assassin, Slushy was that player. But he's an AD carry now, and he just doesn't have the same like power or agency to really get stuff done.
It seems like leadership is something that P1 need. They need somebody to have a game plan of what they're going to do. Gets multiple flashes there, which then prompts the ultimate to come down from Bunny and Fufu because there's no flash on gate. And then the pickup afterwards, and just the clean disengage, because C9 could have gotten greedy there. Sneaky had ultimate, you had superior combat stats. They could have actually just run straight at P1 and tried to clean up that fight, but they played really reserved.
Yep, and that's a good word for this game in general from C9. Just sort of playing it by the book, but certainly executing it every turn so far. Sneaky, though, going to mow down that mending wave, and the power is starting to come now. Everyone on C9. Ravenous Hydra finished for Impact. Jensen with the Rylai's almost completed, plus that Nashor's Tooth. And the Essence Reaver with the Cold finished and ticked away. Sneaky's item coming up soon. Add an Ocean Deck to the tally, and everything's coming up C9 right now. P1 still struggling to find a way in, and C9 look to maybe smother them out of this game.
And C9 just taking control of all the objectives here.
Sneaky, though, still pushing down. Can get what he can here on the Sivir. Again, no one really contesting this farm, so he's not particularly afraid at this point. Jensen actually busy farming up the jungle because he's a mid laner. They like to make sure they get as much farm as possible.
It's true. It's true. He plays a little far forward, but regardless, Cloud9, their wave manipulation is just flat out better than P1's.
And the amount of jungle control this team has had almost all game long, P1 just can't really step out of their lower third of the map into their own buffs near the red and blue. And C9 are actually lining up for another turret here.
Yeah, and Impact has TP over Zig, who does not have it, and he just gets to push top lane in all the way, deny farm, and possibly make a TP play on the other side of the map.
Let me tell you about Ravenous Hydra Trundle. This is not a slow push.
This
is not a slow push, Cyrene. Impact there is going to be challenged by Zig. He actually backs off, I assume, to cover with a teleport. But if he keeps going, those towers will not live. As Meteor straight back into the red buff. C9 continuing to play up towards this red half of the map. See if they can't catch someone from P1.
Clear out the jungle, make sure you have complete agency over it. And Cloud9, if they can control it, have Sneaky shove out that bottom wave, then they get this tier 2 turret because you can see that line of wards. It's the Orion's belt in the jungle.
Good way to put it. Great coverage from C9. Again, just playing everything like they need to. Still only 4,500 gold up, so haven't grown a huge lead in the last few minutes, but do not be fooled. They are slowly but surely getting ahead. And at some point, it just all breaks for P1. Because they're either, okay, we're now too far behind, we have to make a play, or we're too far behind, we don't make a play and we lose.
It's the slow
bleed. Not a good try.
It's the slow bleed if you don't do anything.
And look, to P1's credit, they get to choose, is it going to be the slow bleed or the fast bleed? I think it's one way or the other, they have to make a proactive play. Maybe Baron is where they look to. They are powering up, they've got some items coming through, but it's just tough.
If you toggled vision right now, there's one ward that was just placed, is the blue trinket right there on the Baron, and Cloud9 have the bottom side of the map completely lit up, Constellation down there, but nothing on the top side, and you could see exactly where they're focused with all of their pink wards and all of their vision control. Whereas P1 on the other side, exact opposite. They are all about that Baron right now, but it's probably not even to do it. It's probably just to make sure Cloud9 don't do it.
Yeah, Jensen set up another turret there, so that's a great point for C9 to pivot around. Now, though, realizing they had no vision after that blue trinket, will move their way in and around the Baron area. Impact's actually transferred down to that bottom side to apply pressure there, mainly because that's where the ward coverage is. And C9, an Ocean Drake and Infernal Drake, everything's just going exactly the way they want it to right now.
Now, if you're Cloud9, you pretty much just continue doing what you're doing at this point. You've already tested them and said, okay, well, we know how to manipulate waves better.
This is what their comp wants to do as well, right? Yeah. We talked about standard drafts P1. Just strong champions in every role. Pretty good team fight. That's sort of the Karma. That's the Karma Maokai special usually. Impact on the Trundle, definitely much more about the split pushing. Does slap Zig there, although it's far too many turret hits for that particular trade. Does still have his ultimate though, so things will likely be okay. And C9 know, like, sure, if they get into a team fight, we can probably force one, but they just don't need to. They have the Trundle. They can just play through it.
Yeah, that's the thing, is when you're playing the map, the risk ultimately becomes lower. You're talking about like a 20% risk. If you actually take a team fight, even if it's higher, or even slightly higher, like 5%, people are just like, okay, well, you're just going to go with the safe option. right? It's why we didn't see the Sivir ultimate pop from Sneaky, because there's the possibility that it gets turned around on you or somebody misplays.
Depends on the team.
Yeah,
Some teams like to take only clean whips.
That's true, because you get more, higher risk, higher reward.
But C9 at least right now, again, talk about still figuring out their identity as a team. At least in this game, they'll play it very safe. But things could change. And you know that if there is a proactive play to be made, Bunny's actually had some good lineups. He's actually pretty much holding Meteos' hand this whole game long. Because anytime P1 wants to do anything, they've got the backup of Rek'Sai and Bar just ready to rescue them or turn it around and start a play.
And starting a play is something that I actually want to see from Cloud9, because sure, you can play the macro game, and that's fantastic, and you're slowly going to bleed them out, but we're looking at teams like Immortals that are constantly fighting. TSM, 4-man dives mid very early on in the game, and they try to choke you out immediately after that by having constant pressure, and you wouldn't be able to get the type of wards down that P1 are getting down and then having cleared. So Cloud9, if they want to contend with the big boys now of the LCS, because they're falling out of that category, they need to make very proactive plays. They need to be slaughtering their opponents, especially something as a team like P1 that people are perceiving near the bottom of the standings at the moment.
Yeah, at least early on. And again, it only gets rougher here, having to make a late substitution. C9, though, continuing their jungle control rate. Meteos feels like he's trying to set some sort of record here for amount of buff stolen. Oh, Jensen, oh, he missed it. That would have been like, what, 6th consecutive blue buff?
Every blue buff. We could probably get a percentage of blue buffs taken by Cloud9.
There's a lot.
It'd be very high. There's a jungle control stat somewhere in the world.
Well, to check it out later, perhaps. The C9 continue to play this game. Now P1 grouping up a bit. Ooh, good tag on a bunny. Lilas is there, so they give some catch potential now with the Victor. Slushie also with 2 items, so it feels like P1 maybe poised for a fight here. They're not too far behind.
Yeah. They could play for a fight. We do have the double item power spikes coming through for Lucian, for Slushie, and for Pyrian. And this is rather interesting because we used to see Victors get 2 upgrades on their Hex Core and then leave it there for a very long time. They didn't really care about the gravity field. We are seeing people, we'll talk about that in a second. We're seeing people get the red one, the final one, very early on because the buffs that happen to Chaos Storm, when you get the red one, it increases the movement speed of Chaos Storm by 20%. So we're seeing people even get that first item, then Rylai's. So when it's faster and you're slowing your opponents, and it has that gigantic tick damage, granted it ticks, you know, every so often, keeping them in it is important, and that's what people are going for, is just using that ultimate as that gigantic tool.
Pretty gross. There's no kind of in catch a break. Ocean Drake goes over to C9, but Spear's not there to steal the red buff away. Impact will take that for himself. I don't think he did not get Glimpse of the Void, so Zig actually still has that, but that's like kind of just keeping the lane afloat for Zig, I think.
It's a good point. Otherwise, would have been shipped down here for him.
2 levels behind still. How does this even happen?
It's just the wave manipulation and the fact that they have control of this jungle. Impact was taking wolf camps every time he shoved out top, and then Zig was actually having Sentinel walk up and take like half the farm with him when he's clearing the wave. He's like, help me push this wave. Took everything and the experience. So you see Impact 50 CS up at the moment.
Yeah.
It's getting disgusting here because that's also happening in the mid lane.
And even Sneaky's up a bit, but yeah, the fact that the 2 big solo laners here in Impact and Jensen are this far ahead in farm. Even Meteos a little far ahead as Cloud9 making a play. Meteos goes in. Sentinel is going to flash out. That was some value there as Zent does get enough by the Tempered Fate. Impact also here. Zent's not going to get to be the target. They'll move out onto him. They've got plenty of DPS. And Impact will collect that kill. Oh, whoa, Slushie! Too aggressive. A double there for Trundle.
Yep, Slushie a little too far forward. Still has his flash, but Jensen able to catch him now, and that's going to be Baron here for Cloud9. Already have it warded up with their pink that never got cleared. Should be rather simple for them to take with no jungler on the field.
2 sideways pushing as well. You mentioned that wave manipulation. C9 are playing a almost perfect game. And if you consider the lane swap turrets to be like an even trade on both sides,
Rift Herald's like the only
that teams opt into. Yeah, it's just the Rift Herald that P1 have managed to take away from Cloud9. Now Baron on, leads absolutely almost insurmountable. We'll watch this again.
Flash from Gate, and then flash from Sentinel.
All right, cool, no flashes.
Yeah, exactly. That's what they're waiting for. They're waiting for those flashes to come down. Shifts out because he has to. And Slushie, oh, he's going to get the Trundle with nobody following him. Definitely a lack of communication there between himself and Pyrian.
Real aggressive, as we expect from Slushie, but again, from the AD carry position, it's just not quite the plays he was making on some of his other picks. And Cloud9 are so far ahead in this game. 8,000 gold up at 28 minutes. We talked about the slow bleed. This is kind of not that slow anymore. C9 is looking to siege this out. Sneaky's not even hitting the turret. He's letting the cannon creep do all the work.
Yeah, range of Sivir. I mean, that's the risk, right? C9 are very risk averse right now.
Okay.
And they're, oh.
Just taken out. Now Tyrion's going to go down as well almost. Meteor's going to flash in. Try and go for the tower dive here. Meteos does take him out. Now Impact's teleported in. And they're going to go for a tower dive. Funny Fufu missing that ulti, but Zig now has to flash out of the way. Santa will flash forward to get themselves some much needed kills. Slushy eats a Price Seeker and C9 open up the game.
Yeah, 28 minutes in, C9 finally pulled the trigger and they're able to capitalize. They get that mid-tier 2. Baron buff, no problem. This turret is just going to get shredded. And so is this inhibitor. And they may even go for more. 20 seconds, but they have a wave on the top side.
Just all too easy, it looks like, for Cloud9. Squad moves out through the magical journey. I'll try and take out at least another inhibitor turret. I think they'll get this one. Not sure they'll break the inhibitors. Well, Impact going to take some tower shots and move forward, threatening anyone from Phoenix 1 that dares to cross them, and they do not dare. This inhibitor melts.
No problem there for Cloud9. Not even so much as a threat on them at all after they got that Baron. Bottom wave is shoving towards them as well, so they have a gigantic wave to pick up in the only lane that has turrets left. Pretty much seems like a done deal there for Cloud9 to figure out what they need to do next. Gate walks up and, oh man. You know Sand Soldier's probably hurt, because not only are you getting stabbed, there's also sand in your wound as well. Probably a little bit salty. I would be too, because that was so much damage there. On the gate, immediately blown up, and you can see just the fact that they played so slow, got an incremental advantage that built up to this. Well, you finally fight with this gigantic advantage and you blow the game wide open.
And that's what
Cloud9 did.
And that's what I was going to mention. This whole game, you tend not to win just by only playing the map. They hit the point where it's like, okay, we built a lead, we do have to make a play.
Yeah.
And then depending on how far you've gotten ahead, the game either ends or you get in a winning position and end the game after that.
Exactly.
Cloud9, given the pace they're playing it, I thought we were going to wait a little longer, but they picked their moment. They're about 6K up. They just rush forward, go to 12,000 gold up now, and P1 just have not no chance, but very close to.
Yeah.
Given how much damage C9 have already done to their base.
Yeah, very little chance at this point. They're going to have super minions just pouring in, and they're going to have to answer eventually, but even the damage from C9. When you play that slow as Cloud9, you are just waiting to get yourself in the perfect position to have a team fight, and you're saying every item we get gives us more percentage chance of winning that team fight later, and they're basically at 99% right now. P1 have to dig deep.
Yeah, they have to try and fight here, but Zig actually getting melted on the front line, gets taken out by Sneaky as Impact just face tanking everyone. Tyrion now going to get ulted up by Bud. Jensen takes out one on the back end as Slushy's going to fall down. This last inhib will fall, and C9 will do it tutorial style. Going to probably push in and try and end the game.
Tutorial style, I like it.
Haven't seen it in a while.
Yeah.
But it's an oldie and a goodie. C9 going to take his Nexus turrets out. Death time is too long here, and P1, with nary a scratch left on C9, will drop game number 1.
Yep. Pretty much perfect game there for Cloud9, aside from the Rift Herald, which you could still kind of count as a lane swap objective. Cloud9, clean and deliberate.
Very clean and very deliberate, most certainly, but a solid game nonetheless. It's kind of interesting. You expect in this spot, you're coming as Cloud9, you may be favored in the matchup just on early impressions. You know that it's a little rough for P1 right now. You think to yourself, okay, like we kind of expect to win,